All right. So, like Jennifer said, I'm PJ, and I'm also a biohacker. Who knows what a biohacker is? Go ahead.
It's like the bulletproof coffee people?
Yeah. In fact, Dave Asprey, the guy that invented bulletproof coffee, is in the Webster's dictionary. If you look up biohacker, he's the one named there, enlisted, because he's considered the father of the biohackers. And there's about 500,000 of us now, but he kind of invented it. I was doing it before the term came around, starting about 35 years ago. The Webster definition is somebody who uses science and technology to find shortcuts and hacks to get healthier and fitter. That's the bottom line. So gizmos, gadgets, science, technology, research, all that kind of stuff to find ways to get healthier and fitter. The first thing I want to talk about is something we're all familiar with, especially nowadays, especially in the last 10 years, and that's text neck. So here's Bev and I, Bev's my wife, on Margaret's show, New Day Northwest, with the text neck, subject of text neck, because it's such a problem. Drive by any bus stop, and 90% of the people are standing like this. They're looking down at their phone, and they're engrossed with their phone. And here's the thing about text neck or any other posture. Forward head posture is what we were getting before the phones because of computers. You know, we're training, we're looking at the computer, and our head goes forward because you're trying to pay attention. We don't know we're doing this. It's all unconscious. But when we do this, and driving too, it's all pretty much similar posture, the bones actually start to regrow in that direction. You know the little old lady from Pasadena you see here walking down the street like this? Her bones have regrown that way over the years of that kind of posture and that kind of stress. Bones are constantly breaking down and building back up. Sorry, she broke her fork. Strong, way to go. So it's reversible though. And a best example of that is a woman I was training back in the day when I was training most people out of their homes. Betty, I trained from when she was 75 to 83. She grew 1.5 inches in that time because it was reversing. So the exercises we were doing plus the brain training for her to be standing up and conscious of it all day and doing this. 1.5 inches. She was a short little lady. She's still short-ish, but she was 1.5 inches taller in that time, instead of getting shorter during those years, which most old ladies would do. So these are some ways, some hacks and techniques and tips to correct for this and to start to reverse it. First one is to be mindful and to catch yourself doing it. That's 51% of it. And then start doing something about it. So the first thing you would do is, oh, I caught myself. Chin back like a drawer, stand up straight. Now, the military posture isn't good for you either, but if you're kind of trying to find some way in between, or go ahead and do the military posture as a reminder to try to set good posture, because you're not going to be there all day, just like you shouldn't be here all day, then you're going to be getting some benefit from it. So here she's just stretching out over the physio ball, which reminds your body it can go there, because otherwise you're here, driving, and it forgets that it can go there, and that's where the bones start to regrow. And then she's got some soup cans. She's just flipped over on that ball. Now she's doing some exercises, some upper back exercises to get those muscles stronger. So here she's making the front looser because it tightens up if we don't correct for that. And here she's making them stronger because normally these get tight and these get weak. So now she's reversing both of those things, and then, of course, while she's on the ball, she might as well do some crunches, right? Because it's really good for that. It's my favorite ab machine is the ball. The next topic is about adjusting your workspace. How many people here have a stand-up desk? Great. Stand-up desks are awesome, and these are some cheapish versions of this. So this is the frugal version. This is the one I have for $30. And here's the fancy version for $3.50. And you can also get just the one-piece desk that goes up and down. The point is to have something that you can adjust. So up is great, standing is great, down is great, sitting is fine too. So sitting is not bad as they say unless you're only doing it. And then it's like the new smoking, which we'll get to later. But up and down is actually the best way. with the sitting, it's one thing is the sedentary part of it and not moving. The other thing is the stress on the low back, because it's being in one position sitting that's not natural that is causing the stress on that low back. Plus, it's making your hip flexors too tight and your hamstrings too tight, which contributes to those back issues. So the best thing to do if you're a sitter is, like the previous slide said, to mix it up. But if you can't do that, or even if you can, to remind yourself when you're sitting to get up. So this is a cube, it's a timer, and you put the side up, the number up, where you want it to give you a little alarm to remind you to stand up, go walk around, grab some water. And just even standing up and doing a posture correction and then sitting back down can be enough. Just that much time. So it doesn't have to be a big deal. It can be a tiny little step. And I recommend every 15 minutes. Sometimes it's 30 if you're super busy. Now, people ask, well, why can't I just do an app where my phone goes off or a screen thing on my computer where a pop-up comes up? And the reason is we're already programmed to ignore that stuff and just to turn it off. But if it's something physical outside electronics like that, it's different. It's different for the brain, and then we're more likely to do it. And then your walk and talk. So if you're having a meeting, think, is there a way I can do this meeting walking around? Which is huge. Anytime you can do that is going to be enormous for getting away from the sitting, the new smoking. This guy over here is taking a smokeless smoke break. Smokers take their smoke breaks, and we can learn something from smokers about health. Because most of the, air quotes, addiction to smoking is because of the other stuff they're doing around the actual cigarette. They're standing up and they're removing themselves from their work, so they're getting away from their electronics. They're going outside and breathing. Both of those things are super good for your health. Taking that little break, even if it's just a few minutes. So I suggest everybody takes regular smoke breaks without the cigarette part. And it's going to be really good for your health and for your brain. And then also, like with the meeting here, on your next phone call, think, is there a way I can walk around while I'm doing this? Another excuse to get up and walk around. And then the big question, do you really need 8 or more glasses of water per day? And I say no. I say you need more than that. And the reasons are endless. I've got a whole post on this, and there's a link on that sheet I was talking about. But here's all the pros. And the cons, maybe more bathroom trips. It's really the only drawback. The naysayers will say, oh yeah, you don't really need all that. It's just drink when you're thirsty. Well, here's the truth, is if you're dehydrated, like 8 out of 10 Americans walking around out there, your thirst mechanism isn't working right anymore. And it won't tell you when you need water. It'll instead tell you that you're hungry. Because people who are chronically dehydrated have taught their bodies that their body needs to extract the water from the food they're eating. And now their body is programmed that way. So next time it's thirsty, it says, give me more food so I can get the water out of it, because that's the way we've trained it. Yeah.
So to what extent other drinks such as coffee satisfy 8 glasses?
Decaf coffee will satisfy. The only thing that really doesn't is caffeinated or drinks with artificial sweeteners and ingredients. Yeah. But otherwise, your body can figure out how to get the water out of that.
So beer works, right?
Beer. Okay, well, not so much. So let me rephrase my answer. Coffee and alcohol drinks. Caffeine and alcohol drinks do not count. Even tea, though, because that's lower caffeine, that can count. Not all of it, but a lot of it. The formula that I tell people to use is take your body weight in pounds, divide it in half, and that's how many ounces you should be drinking a day. Now, that might be a big step for a lot of people. So then just start with 8 more. Start with 8 more ounces per day, and stack it with another habit, like you're brushing your teeth. So put a Post-it note by your toothbrush that says drink 8 ounces, and now you're just starting with a small step. That's not much. That's just a small cup, and start with that. And then when that becomes a habit, do it. If you brush twice a day, then do it twice a day. When that becomes a habit, now it's easy to add it somewhere else with another habit, stack against that. And that's another hack, is habit stacking and mini habits, which I'll get to later. So the next thing is EMFs. We're getting them from everywhere. We're getting bombarded right now with the Wi-Fi, our cell phones, you name it. And there's no way to get away from it. So every once in a while you'll run into a biohacker who's also a prepper who has moved out to the wilderness, and he's living off the grid, and he's growing his beard out, and there's a cave out there that he's more protected than we are. He still can't get away from it, but I don't want to do that, and probably no one else in the room does. So let's find ways to mitigate it. And here we go. Here's one. This is a mouse pad. This mouse pad has a little plug, and that goes into the ground hole of the outlet, which sounds dangerous, but it's not. Because on every building, the building is wired, and everything is connected through the outlets down to the ground. It all comes together, and somewhere there's a stake in the ground. They drove it in, and that's how everything is grounded. And when you plug into that little hole, then you're plugging into that stake in the ground. So what's happening is, because your body now is grounded through this pad and through your skin, you're mitigating these EMFs, and they're going way down. Here's another one, a pillow. It's got silver thread in it. It sounds expensive, but it's really not. My wife and I have that version, but neither of us like the way the pillowcase feels. So we put it under the top sheet, and it still works. It gets through that. So then it's like a little pad we're sleeping on. I don't even notice it. Grounding all night, 8 hours a day. And then I'm using that during the day. So EMF's drastically reduced. And then here's another thing, another hack. Yeah, go ahead.
I have a question about the grounding.
Yeah.
I've heard that you can also ground by just being barefoot.
Bingo.
In the grass.
That's the best way. So if you have time to spend 15 minutes a day is all you need in bare feet out on your lawn or out in the dirt. And that's awesome. That's another way to do it. Huge difference that it makes. But while you're being bombarded with EMFs in front of a computer with the mouse pad, or all night long for 8 hours grounding down there. So those are huge too. And standing outside when there's a lightning storm nearby, but not being the tallest thing in the field, is a wonderful way. It's even more, it's like a mega dose of those electrons that you're trying to get. So, blue light busters. Here's the frugal version, the one I have. It looks like the old man glasses, but you can also wear glasses underneath these. And then here's the one Dave Asprey has, the fancy version. They both do the same thing, and they block out the blue light, which is good to a certain extent. The sun has blue light, but it's in the exact right ratios. Your screen and phone are in the exact wrong ratios. And looking at them too long gives you too much blue light, which wears down your retina and other things in your eyes. And the damage that's caused to your eyes is actually irreversible. And they're just finding this out in the last few years, because we've only had computers for 30 years, and now people are like, we've been a long-term experiment now, and this is what they're finding. So mitigating that, now there's another way to do it. You can get your software on if you don't want to put the glasses on, and they make them without color too. They look clear. They look just like normal glasses. So there's lots of them out there now. But you can get something that you can install. Iris is the one that I use. I use both, actually. I use Iris and those old man glasses I really noticed a difference. Way less eye strain, no headaches or anything that people report with too much monitor. So next thing I want to talk about is getting in your zone, because we all want to be efficient. You know the zone, when you get in, your time just disappears. And an hour goes by and you're like, wow, that felt like 2 minutes. That was you being in your zone. So the best way to train your body to get in your zone and stay in your zone is to do high intensity training or high intensity interval training. Links on that again on that sheet. But the reason this is so important is because it trains your nervous system and your muscles and your heart and your lungs, what the zone feels like, and then how to get into it, unconsciously and consciously. It's a hack for your zone. And the xgym is high intensity training, but we kind of take it a step even higher. We're actually super high intensity training, but I can't use that acronym. Some of you will get it on the way home. So I just say it's high intensity training. Now, here's another hack that we can do all together. And this one is what I call the post-it technique. And we start with posture. So this is the power pose. So let's all stand up and practice this. So men, it's on the waist. Women, it's a couple inches down. Does anybody know why that might be?
Lower center of gravity.
There you go. Protein bar. Scooby snack for Linda. So men's center of gravity is a little bit higher. Women's a little bit lower. It's about 2 inches lower. So men, we're center of power, center of gravity. We're up here. Women, a couple inches down, center of power, center of gravity. And just doing this is a posture correction technique. Because when you're like this, like we are most of the day driving computers, phone, it's uncomfortable to do your power pose. You just can't do it. It makes you want to do this. So there's your first tip for posture correction. But it also changes your state. Just standing like this, changing your posture, changes your pattern and changes your state and can get you in that zone. It makes the zone way more accessible and easier to get into and then stay into it. So before you want to be in your zone, like you're going to a meeting or whatever, there's a reason for being in your zone. This is a great way, shortcut to get into that. Thank you. And then habit formation. So I'm talking about a lot of things here, and some of them require a new habit to be formed. And this is the best shortcut I found yet on habit formation. Mini Habits. I highly recommend this book. It's on, the link's on the sheet. But just super, super great quick hack. And then now we're talking about fight or flight. So who knows who this is? Who knows who this is? Yeah, Honey Boo Boo. Obviously, her overprotective parents would never put her in this situation. But but it's a good demonstration of how our fight or flight mechanism is designed. It's imprinted in our system to get us away from lions and tigers and bears. Who said that? You said that?
Yeah.
Wow, you're just you're into your skin snaps, aren't you? Or you can give it away if you want to feel generous. Everybody else, there's someone that usually says, "Oh my," and I love that. So, when you're getting away from danger, the fight or flight mechanism shunts blood to the muscles that are going to get you away and to a certain area in the brain that helps make quick decisions and good decisions, okay? Because your life is at stake. So the reason that it's only supposed to work for 20 or 30 seconds is because that's how long it takes to either outsmart our predator, because we're not faster than them, so we have to be smarter. Either outsmart them and you've gotten away, or you're being eaten. Either way, it's over in 20, 30 seconds. So that's how long it's supposed to take. But we're stuck in this all day. So short term, it's good for you and it's healthy. Long term, it's really bad for you. Because those same mechanisms and hormones, like cortisol, for instance, is now elevated all day instead of spiked just for a little bit. And cortisol is actually fattening. And so when people are stuck in fight or flight, they're doing things right with their diet, they're exercising, they're doing everything right, and they're like, why can't I lose weight? Why am I stuck? I'm broken. Well, you might not know how to get out of fight or flight, and you're stuck. So there's ways to get out of it, but when you're stuck in it, there's lots of bad things that are happening. And so one of the ways to get out of it is the high-intensity training. It's not just good for getting into your zone, it's also a good training for getting out of fight or flight, especially the high-intensity interval training. So with xgym style, we're going to complete muscle fatigue in a very safe way. Then at the end, when you're done with the exercise, or interval training, when you're done with your hard interval, you go, and it's a relief, and you do that. How many times do you get to do that during the day without the trigger of intense something? Not much. Some people never. And their fight or flight mechanism is turned on all the time, and their brain and body forgets how to turn off fight or flight. Now they're stuck. Cortisol, weight loss doesn't happen, and all the other bad things that happen with high levels of cortisol. Disease, inflammation, all sorts of bad stuff. So you got to learn how to turn that off. And here's another way that we're going to practice right now, a quick little biohack on how to get out of fight or flight and train your body to get better at it, because some people have to relearn it over time. They've forgotten because they've been stuck in it so long, they have to relearn it. And here's step number 1. So it's square breathing. The first step is just to use seconds or just count. 4 counts in, breathe in for 4 counts, hold full lungs for 4 counts, breathe out for 4 counts, and hold empty lungs for 4. Rinse and repeat, square breathing. And now the second level is using seconds, real seconds. Third level, when you're good at those 2 levels, is to use your heart rate. Let's try it. So find your pulse. It can be here or it can be here, wherever you find a stronger pulse. And you're counting 4 beats to breathe in. And then you're holding full lungs for 4 beats. Then you breathe out for 4 beats. And you hold empty lungs for 4 beats. This is a parasympathetic nervous system hack that gets you out of fight or flight and trains your body how to do it easier over time as your body relearns how to escape from fight or flight. A lot of people ask me, well, can I just take supplements? And there are some supplements for kidney support, adrenal support, those kinds of things that can be helpful, but only under certain conditions. Now here's what I tell people. If you're eating the standard American diet, your nutrition bucket's empty and it's dry. So here's supplements. It's just a drop in the bucket. What's going to happen to that drop when it hits that empty dry bucket? It's going to go, and then it's going to sit there and then evaporate. That's what your money does when you're not eating right and you're taking supplements. It just doesn't help. However, if you have good nutrition and you've got that mastered, now that drop in the bucket makes a difference. Now it hits that good nutrition, got a ripple effect, and it's making changes, and it's helping you. It's a supplement to a good diet. Otherwise, just throw your money away. Or send it to me. And so nutrition first is what I tell people. Get that nutrition down first, then we'll talk about supplements. And then there's the whole willpower and IQ thing. More willpower, higher IQ. Sounds great, right? Well, here's how to do it. The ketogenic diet, high fats. Some people are scared of it because it's high fat and we've been programmed to eat low fat because that's the best way, the healthiest way. Not true. Ever since the low fat revolution started, we've all gotten less healthy and fatter. Direct correlation. How we're supposed to eat is like our ancestors ate, and it's pretty high fat. But it's the right kind of fats. So true keto is not Atkins, where it's any kind of fat and too much protein. It's the right kind of fats, like the omega-3s, MCTs, medium chain triglycerides, like in that fitness chocolate. And so that's a huge hack. And another hack is this meditation app that you can get. Link's going to be on the sheet. This is going to help with your willpower and raise your IQ, believe it or not. Willpower is found in the prefrontal cortex, the front part of the brain. This is the part of the brain that separates us from all the other animals. So all the other animals are reactionary. They live their lives reacting to outward stimuli. And some people are like that too. I'm sure you can think of a couple of people that way. But we're different because humans have a bigger PFC. And we use that to simulate reality. So we say, well, if I did this, what might happen? Animals can't do that, but we can look into the future and simulate things. So we're using our PFC for that. We're also using our PFC for willpower. The bigger the PFC is, the more willpower the mammal has, or whatever animal it is. And a good example of this is cats and dogs. So dogs are trainable. You can train a dog to put a biscuit on his nose and not eat it, and just wait there until he gets the command. That's self-control. Cat, not so much. Cats have a smaller PFC, so there's a direct correlation. So humans have a huge PFC compared to all those, but sometimes it's shut down because if we live a reactionary life, the PFC starts to atrophy. Well, that's reversible, good news, and here's one way. Whether you have a really strong PFC already and tons of willpower, or it's shrunk, this is going to help, and this is going to make it better. It's a thing that you clip to your earlobe, and it measures your heart rate variability, and it's a guided meditation. It doesn't do anything, it's just a sensing mechanism. And then so's this. This is the Muse headband. There's a strap that goes around the front here, that goes around your forehead, and then this behind your ears has a whole bunch of sensors. This is actually sensing your brain waves, and then the app is giving you instant feedback on how your meditation is going. So both of these things, 5-10 minutes is worth like an hour of unguided meditation where you're trying to do it on your own. Big, huge time saver hack. Healthy brain puts you in the top 5%. There's a lot that goes along with being in the top 5% of any group, but these are some ways to do it. So this is a brain type test I developed over the years. There's 16 different brain types. It's a 20-question test. Shows you which brain type you are, and then a 5-page result sheet comes back to you telling you what the best exercise is going to be for you, some shortcuts and hacks on nutrition, and some brain training tricks that are going to make the most sense to your unique brain wiring, shortcut to figure out how to get healthier and fitter faster based on what makes sense to your brain, instead of trying a whole bunch of stuff that might not work or trying to find the things that work best by chance. So the top 5 things to get healthy: exercise, number 1. That's a keystone habit because it supports all the other healthy habits better than any other healthy habit as the keystone. Does everybody know what a keystone is? Picture the Roman arch. Biggest stone is in the middle because it's supporting the pressure of all those smaller stones. So if exercise is put in the middle, any healthy habit can be a keystone. But exercise has been shown to be the best because it changes your hormones, chemicals, even your gut microbiome independent of dietary changes. So it's the granddaddy of all habits. And nutrition and water, hydration, is number 2. Quality sleep, number 3. Techniques to do this. There's links on that sheet on all these posts. Brain training, training your brain. Relationships, which a lot of people are surprised to see that, but it's so good for the brain. We are relational humans. We're pack animals. And when you're working on relationships, it's amazing for the brain, especially if it's hard. So next time you're working on a relationship, you're like, oh my gosh, this relationship is so hard. Think back and remember what I said, that's good brain training. So there's a positive to something hard, right? It's great for your brain. You're getting smarter, increasing willpower, increasing IQ. Now, here's the top 5 to prevent and even reverse dementia, especially Alzheimer's. My mom was diagnosed with that in the year 2000. Back then, we didn't know enough to help, so she passed in 2005. But I never stopped studying this. That's why I'm so into this brain stuff. Because I wanted to the science was changing so fast, I wanted to learn more things to help other people. And now we know even Alzheimer's is reversible. Amazing. So these are the top 5 things that I've boiled down. Now, do you see a similarity between the two? They're almost the same. The only difference is learning and games. So for someone who has dementia, they want to skip to, boil it down a little bit, their brain training is a little more specialized. It's learning and games. So especially learning something new outside your field of expertise. That's why in 2008, I decided I was going to get my private pilot's license because, there's big books you have to learn, there's school you have to go to, there's things you have to memorize, it's the FAA exam, practical and written, and all that stuff. And it's actually really hard to do and lots of stuff to learn. I knew I'd like it because growing up, my dad was a private pilot and we flew around a lot. So I knew I would enjoy it, but I'd have to learn a ton. And I did. So for me, it was a brain training exercise. Learning another language is a great thing. but pick something outside your field of expertise that you already have. Learning stuff within your field is good for your brain. Always learning, that's great. But learning something outside your field of expertise is amazing for your brain to make new connections and forge new paths in that brain. So now I want to talk to you a little bit about an exercise hack. There's lots of ways to do this, but if you're doing traditional training, sets and reps, you're probably spending too much time, unless you want to be a bodybuilder. Because sets and reps was invented back in 1891 by Eugene Sandow, who was a famous European strongman, and he was getting all the chicks because he was buffed. And so the guys back in 1891 were pretty skinny. We didn't have an obesity epidemic back then. And they wanted to look like Eugene and get all the chicks. So they said, hey, Eugene, tell us how to do this. So he sold them his method. Sets and reps were born. Most people are still doing it because they don't know any better. But there's alternatives out there. Not just xgym. There's Pilates, there's bar. There's lots of things out there that you can do, but still 95% of the people are still doing sets and reps because that's all they know. So with xgym, what I've developed over the last 30 years is a system that gets equivalent of 7 hours of traditional training in 42 minutes a week, 2 21-minute workouts per week. And we do that at the Kirkland xgym, we do that through the app, we do that through our online training, and there's a health course with all of these that come with it, with a lot of the hacks that I've developed. So that's like a time machine. And we've really come a long way. You know, back here with the hunter-gatherers, and there's still a few societies that exist that are hunter-gatherer societies like this, and they're super healthy. They don't know what cancer is. They don't know what heart disease is. They've never heard of diabetes. They don't have that stuff. But then we got to the point where we're farming, we're growing food, we're raising animals, we're eating more protein, and we got bigger. And we kept doing that, kept evolving those whole systems, and our brains got bigger, and we got smarter, and we started reading. And then look how smart we got. And so now we're doing all this stuff, forward head posture, and then now we're geniuses now. We got our TVs, we got our fast food for convenience, all that stuff. So where are we going next? I don't know, but we're going backwards as far as health goes. And for the first time in the history of our planet, we have a generation now, the one just right below us, that is going to live, their lifespan is going to be shorter than ours. So the lifespan is turned around, and that's pretty alarming. But it's because of what we're doing, because of how smart we got. So the takeaways. Basically everything your great-grandma told you to do. Get moving as much outside as you can. Drink more water. Start with the small steps. Start with 8 ounces more per day, like I mentioned earlier. Get in your kitchen. Convenience foods has made us lazy. Getting in your kitchen, using real food is huge. And if you go down to the beach in the summer and you ask anybody over 40 who's in amazing shape how much time they spend with food prep, you always get the same answer. It's hours per week. Now, it doesn't have to be, because I have hacks on that too. If you go to our xgym recipe page, you'll see those hacks. But that's what they'll say. It's a commitment, and there's a reason they look like that. And then forming habits and rituals using hacks. Some of the hacks that I've come up with, but also the book, Mini Habits, is fantastic. And start small. So in closing, with the thing that you've entered, the form that you entered that went around, you get the hacks, you get the discount if you want it for the app, it's an option. Again, there's plenty of other options out there. But as I said, unless you want to be trying to be a bodybuilder, I would not recommend traditional training, sets and reps. And then there's, of course, the VIP list that people get updates on, my latest hacks and things that I've learned. And you'll get this list. Some people use this as a shopping list, but it's a sad rad that I've developed over the years. The higher you get, the healthier those foods are, and the more fat burning they are. The lower you go, the less healthy they are, and the more fat storing they are. So some people just print this off and take it to the store as their shopping list. It doesn't include everything, of course, but it's most of the main foods. And now, questions and responses. Yeah?
What do you think about coffee all the time? Like
All the time?
like- well, I mean, you know, as a regular, everyday, like the bulletproof coffee people say.
Yes,
you know.
and a lot of people are surprised by my answer because my answer is coffee is healthy. It's actually good for you. Now you can't count it as water because it's caffeinated coffee is mildly dehydrating. But if it's decaf, it can be hydrating. And even caffeinated is fine, 1 to 2 cups a day. But what they found is people who drink 4 cups or even 5 have a lower incidence of dementia. But here's the caveat, gotta be organic. Coffee's really hard to grow. And so it takes lots of pesticides and fertilizers if it's not organic, and you're drinking those. So it's the opposite of healthy. If it's non-organic, it's bad for you. Stop immediately. If it's organic, it's good for you. It's a health food. Same thing with meat. I mean, if you go to Safeway and you just buy the conventional beef or whatever kind of meat, if it's not wild and or grass-fed, 100%, it's bad for you. It's a bad thing to eat, bad idea. If it's 100% grass-fed or wild, it's a good idea. It's good for you. Same thing with fish. Make sure it's wild. Alaska is the cleanest water. Wild Alaska is the best case scenario. If it doesn't say wild, it's probably from a farm, and that's toxic. So that it might seem like the same thing, totally opposite. One's going to harm you and give you disease. The other one's going to heal you and make you healthy. Same thing with veggies, organic or nothing. Just stay away from the non-organic veggies. If you have to eat non-organic veggies, and we all do, go to a restaurant or whatever, then like Jennifer and I, she's another biohacker, we'll bring our little mini supply of activated charcoal pills. I'm sorry to out you on this. Yeah. But yeah, and our own salt, so we're not eating the salt that comes at the restaurant. Just to kind of mitigate, try to absorb some of those toxins and glyphosate from the fertilizers and the pesticides and all that kind of stuff. But you can't be perfect, right? So, and none of us should try to be perfect. We all try. That's another fatal human flaw, is we try to be perfect. And nobody can live up to that. So what I tell people is constantly strive for progress, not perfection. Even tiny steps is progress. The tiniest step, just adding 8 ounces of water a day, that's progress, that's a win. And so that's the key, progress, not perfection. Anyone else? Yeah.
The new thing of people drinking all of these carbonated, low-calorie beverages like LaCroix and all of those things.
Yeah.
I see my family going through those so quickly. I'm thinking to myself, I just don't feel like this is okay. Is it okay? Or
It
is
depends.
okay?
So a lot of people think that carbonation is bad for you. And if it's just carbonated water or carbonated water with natural sweeteners, that's okay. I haven't seen any studies to date that say it's a problem.
Okay.
But any drink, carbonated or not, with artificial ingredients is a big problem. And so just stay away from that. If you read the label and you can't pronounce the ingredient, don't drink it. But if it says something like stevia or erythritol, something like that, that's a natural a sweetener or a natural ingredient, then you're good. And it's probably going to be hydrating too.
But what about the cans?
So cans is another thing, and they're getting better with cans, but it can leach aluminum, which can be really bad. And sometimes the can can have a lining on the inside that has BPA or BPS, which can be a problem too. So the other thing I recommend is buy it in a bottle. Glass is going to be fine. And then if you have your own water bottle, actually this is my Trucy bottle. It's got hydrogen water inside. I've got a machine that's a whole nother story. Anyways, this is stainless steel. So there's another great source, but not the super cheap stainless, because they could have a coating on the inside too, or be a really bad quality, or maybe they're misreporting and it's actually aluminum and they just reported wrong. So you got to spend a little more money, but stainless real stainless is also safe. Yeah.
So you were talking about blue light, so
Yeah.
I want to know if you have a take on Bluetooth and how that affects brains and stuff.
Blue what?
Like the wireless, everything being wireless.
Oh, Bluetooth. Yes,
Because
it does.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's low emitting Bluetooth, and that's better.
What?
Yeah, so there's lower frequency. Again, we can't get away from it, but we can try to mitigate it. So Bluetooth headphones, I think, are probably the biggest offender, because now you're taking the EMF source and you're sticking it inside your skull. So as close as you could possibly get to your brain. So I do not recommend that. I have some headphones that I use that are an MP3 player. They're not Bluetooth. I have to load the songs on them. So there's no radio signal that's being, they're old school, but they're small enough that, I can do my stair training or whatever, and there's no radio going on. Great. Thanks for coming. Thanks for your questions. Yeah. And I hope this helped. So again, that sheet, if you got it, will have my contact info, or else pj@xgym.com is a pretty easy email to remember, and I'll be a resource for you.
And that's all I have to say about that.